I have spoken.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars, no other.
Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge in a galaxy far, far away. Jaime En Fuego here, welcoming you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. And you can just call me Fuego for short. And I'm stoked to be here for another Rapido review of the second episode, Chapter 2, The Child of Star Wars, The Mandalorian. And yes, so the previous one, directed by Dave Filoni, who is putting this show together with Jon Favreau, who is very esteemed in his own right with Disney. And so yeah, not too surprising that he's the one who is just leading this thing. But Filoni, being a big name from, you know, Rebels and from Clone Wars and stuff like that, has curated some of the most respected Star Wars content over the last few years, and not as controversial as something like The Last Jedi and a few other things like Solo and whatnot. But yes, well, I really enjoyed the hell out of the first episode of this, the pilot, and just, I mean, getting the feel for this Mandalorian universe, the grimy underworld and everything. This second episode didn't quite do it as much for me. I mean, it had some elements of charm, but really I think that this is where it's going to become apparent that a binge aspect for this show, as in if they had done the Netflix model instead of the Hulu model and put everything up at once as opposed to making you wait. I mean, we only had to wait a couple days for this episode, but it's going to be coming out every week from here on out, episodes 3 onward. And so, yeah, I guess I will definitely have to spoil things from the end of the first episode because these are not spoiler reviews, but obviously I would hope you're not watching the Chapter 2 review if you haven't at least watched the first episode. So, yeah, at the end of the first episode, our Mandalorian, he gets to his destination on this desert-looking planet for this bounty that was like the highest, priciest one that Carl Weathers' character had for him. And yeah, I mean, like over 50 years they've been trying to get to this thing, and turns out it's a little baby Yoda-looking kid. And yeah, I guess Yoda's race, if I'm not mistaken, has never been properly named or anything like that. So as I did my research after watching the first episode, I was like, what is the name of the type of creature that Yoda is? And apparently it's never been given any sort of distinction. And so, yeah, he gets, with the help of this IG-11 unit, he fights through in this badass gun battle, which is near the tail end of the first episode. And when he was told by this presumed, this Werner Herzog guy, I want to say, I wasn't sure if he was a former Imperial that just had a bunch of, you know, like former stormtroopers, because they're obviously all still in their garb and stuff when you see him in that first episode, and our Mandalorian is sent out on this mission. But yeah, so I didn't know if he was former Imperial or if he was just this crime lord who is employing, you know, former Imperial stormtroopers and whatnot. But that's really, that's aside. It's not supremely crucial in this aspect. All that we know is that he said, you know, you can bring me it alive, but we would prefer it dead. And that's what the IG unit says at the end of the first episode. He's like, well, they would prefer it dead. And so when he goes to kill the little baby Yoda kid, our Mandalorian, yep, he, after averting self-destruct after self-destruct sequence, you know, during the gunfight in the previous episode, yeah, he just shoots him down, and that's that. And so this second episode basically begins with him trudging back with this little floating orb that has our little baby Yoda-looking kid in it. And yeah, of course, there's a few like stragglers from the base that he went and attacked and, you know, took this kid from. And so he fights them off, and yet it is kind of inconsistent because in the previous episode, our Nick Nolte homie, who does play a big part in this as well, he's the short little creature who's like, I'm happy that you as a Mandalorian are here because maybe you can finally bring peace to this area of my planet because of the fact that, you know, there's been nothing but bounty hunters and violence and stuff by people trying to get to this bounty for years and years and years. So maybe you can finally, you know, vanquish these people, get what everyone has been after, and bring some peace. And so that's why he helped him out in the first place. But he did say to our Mandalorian that he had to ride on one of those creatures to actually be able to get across and do it. And yet, yeah, I guess he doesn't need one as he's trudging back. But he gets back, and lo and behold, we have Jawas. Yeah, we get our Jawas in their little portable fortress of sorts, and they are scavenging and stripping his ship, so there's no way for him to actually get back to our Warner or Herzog guy or whatever, our presumed former Imperial or crime lord guy employing Imperial stormtroopers, whatever. So he goes after them, and that is the most thrilling sequence in this, for me, is where he actually goes after these Jawas. He's vaporizing some of them with his blaster. He's also, as he's trying to scale the portable fortress, he's like just throwing them off and stuff. So it's a thrilling sequence. And also another thing to keep in mind is that we don't get any dialogue in this until like over 10 minutes in the episode. It's like 11 or 12 minutes in when he finally reconnects with Nick Nolte's little creature character. And he's like, I will take you to negotiate with the Jawas, and we'll hopefully be able to get your parts back. And he's like, but they stole them from me, you know? And so, yes, they meet up, and the negotiation starts, and they send him on this little side mission to get this egg that they're all presumably super obsessed with. And so, yes, he has to go to the cave of this creature, and we start to kind of see at one particular point that this little baby Yoda looking kid definitely has some forceability. And that's about as far as I want to go without spoiling stuff. That's about, you know, half-ish way into the episode. But it really was, it was kind of a more pedestrian effort, and I feel like this is like the equivalent of one of those really boring Walking Dead episodes where nothing really happens. And it's episodes like this in this binge culture of ours that, I mean, I don't know, slower ones where not a ton transpires. This is where you wish you could just knock out a bunch of episodes in one sitting, as opposed to having to wait a week now, because we have to wait till next Friday to see how all of this resolves and where the story of this child is actually going to take us. And yeah, I guess, you know, in my Rapido thoughts, I will still say that it was still written by Jon Favreau, and it was not directed by Filoni, as I mentioned earlier, or Favreau. It was a name that I did not recognize in this particular instance, but it still looked very cool. We have a CGI creature as opposed to like a primarily practical creature, but I did enjoy having Jawas. That got me all like nostalgic, and I'm assuming that was definitely the intention with having them in here. It was kind of like a essence of fan service to some degree, but I don't know, it made me smile. It made me chuckle a little bit, especially, you know, their obsession with this strange egg and the fact that, you know, he's like, I don't think they like you very much. And he's like, well, I did vaporize a few of them. So that was amusing. But yeah, as a whole, this is probably going to go down in the grand scheme of this first season episode as pretty forgettable. I mean, it still looked cool and everything, and there was a chuckle moment here or there, but it really just did not bring anything that's gonna stick with me. And you do get the most moderate amount of insight into this child, you know, as I said, but aside from that, not really a whole lot going on here. And as pumped as I felt after that first episode, this one kind of just left me wanting. Although I will say, I really dig the paintings that they show in the end credits, although some people have complained about the fact that, yeah, those end credits last a couple of minutes, and whereas the previous episode was like 40 minutes, this one was only barely over 30 minutes? I don't know. I would imagine some people will be disappointed with that runtime, and I guess I kind of was, because before you knew it, the episode was over and not really a whole lot happened in it anyway. But the score is kick-ass. I'm really enjoying it, and also I love those paintings at the end, and I'm going to continue using those for my thumbnails just because I like picking one out and just rolling with it from there. But yes, I have been Jaime En Fuego, and I extend a grande gracias to anybody who tuned into this Rapido review. And you can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, obviously here on YouTube for Enfuegotainment, where there is the previous episode that I have reviewed already, and I've also done lots of Star Wars coverage leading up to the Rise of Skywalker release next month, including reviews of Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice from earlier this year, as well as Dooku Jedi Lost, which were two very interesting bits of insight, prequels into characters like Dooku and then Master and Apprentice being Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan on an early journey that they went on. And yes, both very entertaining books. I also did reviews of the prequels. I have reviews coming of the original trilogy, as well as revisits of Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and a few other special surprises, which I'm pretty stoked for. But unless you, for whatever reason, have stumbled upon this review, which I kind of doubt would be the case, you have probably migrated over from the Horror Show channel, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel, where I spend the predominance of my YouTubing time. That is with Cecil Laird, Marsha Parker, Susie Von Slaughter. We have been doing it for about 5 years at this point, over 30,000 subscribers strong there, and we put out at least one episode every day, sometimes two. Most recently, coverage of Dr. Sleep. I do a weekly Stephen King show on there called Hail to Stephen King, which is a ton of fun. Reviews of all kinds of things recently, from In the Tall Grass to an upcoming review of Parasite. It's been a very busy year here in the year of 19 for us, and so if you like the Spooktacular, definitely jump over there because there's all kinds of freshness, including a complete coverage of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, because my homeboy, the showrunner and my fellow producer on the Horror Show, is doing a fan film sequel to Wes Craven's New Nightmare entitled Dylan's New Nightmare that has a grown-up Miko Hughes returning to portray Dylan. So lastly, I also must mention that on the Will is Screedia YouTube channel, every single Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, I take part in a show called Show Business, #ShowBusiness, and that's where we look at the box office numbers from the preceding weekend. We look ahead to the upcoming weekend and make some predictions and stuff, and then we have a bit of palaver about all of the biggest news stories in the entertainment world of the previous week. So check that out if you get the chance. Greatly appreciated. It is a live show, so that makes it interactive and a ton more fun in that regard. So once more, I have been Fuego, y'all have been Rad Status, and until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, I shall say hasta luego, cinemigos, but I am hopeful that we get to have more of this film discussion, or in this case, TV discussion, in the streaming wars as they heat up, the streaming Star Wars, that's right, sooner rather than later. And until then, may the Force be with you, always.